Hi there, Catarina. So it's nice to see that you have sent us a set of essays for correction. Let's start here with your task one. It's the number of Iranian, Greek, and Turkish students at Sheffield University. Okay. Let's see. So Turkish had an increase. Greece had... Okay, Greece declined. Fine. So, the line graph compares the number of Sheffield University students from three different countries, Iran, Greece, and Turkey, from 2005 to 2009. According to the graph, in 2005, the number of Turkish and Iranian students was considerably low, good, 20 and around 40 respectively, whereas the Greek students were much higher, just under 180. Let's take a look here. Okay, fine. From 2005 to 2007, the number of students from Iran and Turkey had a stable rise, with the Turkish reaching 90 and overcoming the figures of Iran and Greece, which level of at not 70. Okay, here you had some problems with the grammar. We can't say it like this, so let's try it one more time. The number of students from Iran and Turkey had a stable rise, with the Turkish reaching 90 and not overcoming, but surpassing the figures of Iran and Greece. 70. I didn't understand what you meant here. At around the 70 mark, that's really not very important at this point, okay? But what I want to talk to you is this. I'm a little confused about where your overview is. Now, my understanding from looking at this really very briefly is that you do know that you need an overview, but I'm a little confused as to which is your overview. I guess this is your overview. There's not really a lot of detail here. Okay, so what are you telling us essentially in this paragraph? You're telling us what happened in 2005. Then you're telling us briefly what happened here. All right, so let's move on. Until 2009, the number of Turkish increased steadily to around 30 from, this is confusing. Do you mean from 30? I'm not really sure. Turkish students in 2009 were 120. So I'm really confused about what you mean here at 30. Turkish students started at around 20, and they kind of progressively increased until about 125 or so. Okay, so I don't really understand what you're trying to say here with around 30. Well, Iranians rose sharply in the last year from 90 to 160. Iranians are the green. So in the last year, from 90, to 160. That's true. Maybe you meant here by around 30. I think this is what you mean. So from 2008, there was around 100. Yeah, that's what you meant. So until 2009, the number of Turkish increased steadily by around 30, while Iranians rose sharply in the last year from 90 to 160. In contrast, the number of people from Greece stood at 60 until 2008 and decreased until 29, ending at near 40. Okay. Overall, although the number of Greek students started considerably higher than the other nationalities, it decreased rapidly throughout the period and became the lowest of all three. On the other hand, Turkish and Iranians, plural, presented a similar tendency, increasing their numbers over this 4-year period. All right, it's not 4 years, it's 5. Okay, so I think that you've got a good handle on what you're supposed to be doing for your task 1. That's clear. I was a little confused here. I thought this was your overview. You decided to put your overview at the end, which is okay. It's appropriate, and lots of people accept this. Some of your prepositions were a little problematic, and it created some incoherence. I had that big problem with in, around. We finally worked it out when I read the rest of your paragraph. But I think what's happening is that your paragraphing is not clear. So what's missing for me in this task 1 is the organization that would make it a higher level response. There are a ton of ways you could have organized this paragraph, this whole task 1. I'm not going to say that one way is better than the other, but it is important to make it really clear how you're organizing it. So one of the ways you could have organized it was you could have had a paragraph just about Greece. All right, and it would have made sense because Greece started out super high, then it hit this plateau here for a full year, and then decreased. Okay, so you could have spent an entire paragraph about that. And then it would have made a ton of sense for you to link Iran and Turkey together because they both had upward trends. They started around the same, okay, and they also, had a fairly similar increase, while Turkey's was far more gradual and Iran's shot up in that last year. Okay, so that would have been a good way to organize this. Another way you could have organized this would have been from 2005 to 2007. And then in another paragraph, 2007 to 2009. That would have been a more than appropriate way of organizing this. My personal feeling is that the first way is clearer. It makes it far easier to read and easier to understand. Okay, so that's one way I would have done it. It's important to use some good vocabulary here to really emphasize these shifts, these changes in enrollment. So, you could say that Greece started out at 180. This is 9 times higher than the figure of Turkey, and over 4 times higher the figure for Iran. So really just kind of highlighting and emphasizing how big this difference is. Okay? And then you could have said from the following year it dropped to around 150, but in the following year from 2006 to 2007 the drop was sizable to what number is that? Around 70, where it remained until 2008, ending the period at a low of 40 in 2009. This was the lowest figure at the end of the period. Okay, so really highlighting this. It started out super high, it was the highest, and it ended really low. Okay, so these are some of the ways that you have to kind of signpost this information, show what's important and what's not, and highlighting, the highs and the lows here. Okay, so we spent a ton of time on this, so I don't want to spend any more talking about Iran and Turkey. Let's move on to your task 2 about using animals to test the safety of cosmetics or drugs is never acceptable. Let's just take a quick look here at your word count, which I know is okay, but I just want to double check. I see, there it is, 247 words. So you're a little under the mark. What that leads me to think immediately is that there is something that is not developed enough. My first suspicion is that your introduction needs more development. Okay, but let's see what you actually wrote, and we'll take it from there. So, cosmetics and innovative drugs for treating diseases are, use animals to test their safety. I consider this practice cruel and believe that there are other alternatives to test new products. Okay, it's all right. It's a little brief. You could have mentioned that there's this sort of debate about this topic. Okay. So you could have said that, you could have just added one extra sentence here, saying something to the effect of, actually, why don't we try it like this? Cosmetics and innovative drugs for treating diseases use animals to test their safety. Yet, many believe that this practice is immoral and wrong. I agree with this statement, as I consider this practice cruel and believe there are other alternatives to testing products. Okay, so this way you're showing that there's some sort of a debate here, there's some sort of controversy, and you just kind of beef up your introduction a little bit. All right, let's move on. The tests made on animals are known to impute pain and stress to animals, whether they are made for testing drugs or cosmetics. Careful. When you say whether they are made, it's as if the animals are made. All right, but what you really mean is the tests. So you have to be careful here. Maybe if you had said whether they are conducted, that would have worked, because you can't conduct an animal. It's clear that you're conducting a test. So let's try it like that. The tests on animals are known to, you know what? Let's do it one more time, fixing it yet again. Tests on animals are known to impute pain and stress, whether they are conducted for testing drugs or cosmetics. Okay? This, I think, makes the sentence far clearer. For example, to test antibiotics for the eyes, the practice is to inoculate bacteria in the animal eyes to cause an inoculate. I don't know necessarily that's the right word. I do have a big question mark here. To cause an infection so the drug can prove its efficiency, not efficiency. You want the word efficacy. You saw that I automatically wanted to say it. So to prove its efficacy. Furthermore, some cosmetic trials include using the products on animals' skin. Animals, it should be S apostrophe, which can cause damage and pain. For these reasons, I think that humans do not have the right to use animals for testing purposes. Okay. I think here you were on the right track, but you needed to say a little more. What did you tell us? Impute pain and stress. So you told us that they cause an infection. But what you want to add here to kind of prove your point is that these infections are very painful. And if the drug works, then great. Okay, you've solved the problem. But what if the drug doesn't work, which is many times the case? Okay, so you needed to kind of really just kind of go into this argument here, adding not really a lot, just a few words. So you said inoculate bacteria in the animal eyes to cause an infection. Full stop. When the drug works, then the animal is fine. But when the drug has problems, the result is that the animal suffers. Okay? So if you had said something like that, you really kind of make it clear where the problem is here. Okay? And I guess the other part was all right. So let's move on. However, we must acknowledge that medical drugs and cosmetics need to be tested before entering the market, and so new methodologies must be considered. One way of achieving this is to assign, no EE, part of the company's income to develop alternatives to animals. To illustrate this, in vitro studies are widely used, with a D, in French cosmetic industries and are a reliable option. Another, ANO, is to use volunteers. You want to spell this very differently. That are willing to test a product in exchange for money. Furthermore, the government must create new laws that protect animals and obligate companies to use other types of studies since they are currently optional. To conclude, I believe that laws, S, must change in order to protect animals. Meanwhile, companies must ensure that the tests made on animals, okay, well, not really made, done on animals are replaced by cruelty-free alternatives. Okay. I thought you did fine. I thought it was nicely done. You were convincing. There were a couple of areas, obviously, that we talked about that needed a little work. But on the whole, I thought it was a well-written essay. Good paragraphing. I like that you had this switch here in the point of view with the however. It was well constructed. All around, it was a good attempt. All right, clearly things here and there that we talked about that were a little problematic, or that little tweaks that needed to happen, but overall you're on the right track. What I would like to see from you is I'd like to see you sign up for our essay corrections package. This way we could continue to work together. We could talk about what the weaknesses in your essays are, talk about what the strengths are, and do whatever we can together to overcome those weaknesses. There'll be a link in this email to ask you to sign up for essay corrections. So see if that's something you'd like to do, if you'd like to continue working with us. I know we would like to continue working with you and help you reach your IELTS goals. Okay, so thanks for sending this in. I look forward to seeing more of your essays in the future. Good luck to you.